Okay. Analytics. Okay, we have theoretically got stuff going. Yes. Okay. And we're streaming, and of course, right then is when that comes through. Now. Okay. And so now I want to thank my patrons for this. This is actually a system that one of my patrons has been working on, and we are going to be giving it the very early alpha stage a review and seeing what we're dealing with here. Now, I want to thank Quentin for letting me take such an early look, and hopefully we will be able to get a lot out of this. A moment. So, The Secret Lives of Enchanters, an at-arm's length role-playing game. At Arm's Length is a webcomic created by Darkwing Dude, and it's generally very high quality. Some of the filler arcs are a bit iffy, but, you know, they're filler. It happens. We're talking about it's a secret magic urban fantasy genre of setting, which is basically the normal world, but secretly in the shadows you have mages and magic users who are hanging around and doing stuff quietly. Keeping up the masquerade is commonly a vital component of this kind of setting. Now, the other thing to remember about this is that it is a furry setting, so all the characters are non-human. But, you know, it's a good webcomic, storytelling is good, worth checking out. We can tell that this is a very early alpha because we're still at the this is a test stage for the table of contents. How to roleplay a game, that is an absolutely perfect way to start your setting. I don't even know why it's got this in this early stage in the alpha, but I appreciate it. It is really the fundamental start to a game, and not having it is kind of a bad choice. Okay, so we have an example of play, which is fun. We're going to skip that for now. I'm going to change the settings here because there we go. So, design goals. Here's where we start. Secret Lives of Enchanters is a game for role-playing in the at-arm's length world. At the same time, it's far from mandatory that it be rigidly locked into the webcomic. Mechanics-wise, point-based role-play game. I like that. Role game. Okay. Well, that needs an edit. It's supposed to be a role-play game. Point-based rules allow the players maximum amount of freedom to build their characters. At the same time, it allows you to fine-tune balancing. It's also good for making sure that you don't have some players that just get lucky at character creation and are way more powerful than everyone else. So, which is my primary dislike of random character generation systems. Because, you know, it's no fun if everyone else has rolled like a 14 as their highest attribute, and then someone comes along and rolls all 18s. It's just, okay, that's the main character, and everyone else is supporting cast now. And it's no fun for anyone that didn't roll all 18s, so Point-based, approved. So this is a humorous, non-gritty kind of genre. Yeah, that's definitely doable. Very much going to lend itself to a cinematic game. We have no entities. Yep, humans in fursuits. Combat is common but not graphic violence. Okay. G-rated with occasional PG-13. Yep. Common themes. Monster of the Week. That's a classic. There's actually a game called Monster of the Week. It uses the Apocalypse World engine. As far as I know, it's actually pretty good. Conflicts of interest. Okay. Alien Co. have responsibility. So that's the main characters from the webcomic. They're not necessarily going to have anything to do with the RPG. So, and I'd argue that not having canon characters is often a better choice, at least not having them in the forefront of the game, because if you've got canon characters, either you're restricted to playing them in canon, or you're immersion breaking by having them act wildly out of character. So, trying to avoid having your canon characters be front and center is a good option. We've got multiple cultures, which is always fun. Yep, the Masquerade. So, Enchanters are... Okay, so Enchanters, brief overview. Enchanters are basically the super magic race for the setting. They were... well, what's the correct term? They were normal, and then they got hit by a magic meteorite thousands of years ago, and that diverged. So a lot of their culture is still locked in the whole classical era, you know, the Roman, Egyptian, Greek general geographic area, and like height of Roman power is about where their culture diverged. So that's always fun. It really shows with their building style, their architecture. And so, and obviously you've got your home life. And now I know that a lot of people going into these games are looking for combat, but a lot of the fun from urban fantasy type games is, you know, the conflict between trying to live a normal life and also being involved in all the craziness that is urban fantasy. Like, you know, if you're a vampire hunter, say, in, I don't know, some generic... In generic game, if you're a vampire hunter, then that's going to make it really hard to keep a stable relationship with your girlfriend if, you know, every night you've got a chance of, oh, I've got to go hunt this vampire before it kills people, but I've also got to try and make the date and not ditch on her. So, you know, there's a lot to be got out of that. There's a lot of drama to be had and a lot of fun role-playing to be had. So, let's see. Intro to the universe. What makes for a standard campaign? Focus is mostly on Earth. Yeah. Code of Silence. Forbidden from, the Masquerade. Very similar to Real World, but general context rather than going for specific details. Characters whose anatomy is radically different from standard humanoid should have a really good disguise or never be in a position to interact with normal society. So, if you want to play a centaur, that's going to take you out of any of the normal society stuff unless you've got someone who can transform you. All the cool kids are enchanters. So, now this is a core part of the webcomic. Enchanters are just better. It's like in Dungeons and Dragons, if you had, you know, humans elves, dwarves, halflings, gnomes, and Kryptonians as your race choice. The Kryptonians are just better than everyone else. That said, playing a non-enchanter in this game just is going to give you challenges. It doesn't mean that you're useless. It should be, I should say. I haven't actually looked at the rules, but you should still be able to contribute. You're just not going to be one of the team's heavy hitters. But that's perfectly fine. You could build a face type character who specializes in interacting with mortals. Heck, you could potentially just play someone with no magic who has a vast contact network or other mundane skills that are hugely useful even if you're not contributing to the magical side of things. It's all cosmetic. Tropes of king. So rule of cool and rule of funny. Most plot lines should be defeating monster weak, how characters maintain balance in life, etc. Except all character types. Obviously not need to be disguising that, or okay with having the world's reaction to weirdness be a non-trivial aspect. Okay. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Now I'm envisioning an X-Men style thing with just a bunch of weird characters trying to gain acceptance being your campaign. I could definitely see that being an interesting one. So enchanters are they're the assumed race. So balancing is going to be around enchanters. And you're going to be a young one because the old ones are absolute powerhouses and would completely break the game. Okay, mundanes are generally supporting cast. Because enchanters are it's like having Kryptonians. Like, Superman doesn't really care about the problems that would absolutely wreck, just Joe Average. That annoys me. Hang on. What's this? Okay. Yeah, that's easy enough. Sorry about that. So we've got to, got to factor in the game is balanced around enchanters. So if you're playing a mundane, you are not going to be one of the group's go-to people for combat or spellcasting. Even if you're a mundane, if you're a non-enchanter spellcaster, the enchanters are going to overshadow you. So, now, with the world, I think if I was going to play a mundane character, I would just spec into all of the skills that, enchanters aren't going to be bothering with. Because one thing you have to remember about enchanters is that they're a bit on the arrogant side, so mundane skills are not their forte. They're not going to have a massive contact network of mundane people who they can ask for information. They're not going to have access to scientists. They're not going to have, a working knowledge of theoretical physics because they're magic people. That's not their field. So, while you won't be the heavy hitter in combat, you can still contribute a lot. And there is a super tech faction which you can have if you're really wanting to have some fun. Okay, you also have dragons potentially. Again, need to keep up the masquerade. Their dragons seem to be pretty much on par with enchanters. Enchanters are your magical powerhouse PCs. Dragons are more your physical powerhouses. Okay, yeah, you're going to spend most of your time on Earth. And so we're doing all the background and establishing the world first, formatting wise. Yep, we're about right there. Mortal spellcasting. Noteworthy locations. Yep. Noteworthy organizations. Homeworld of Enchanters. Politics and culture. So, I'm going to skip over the rest of the world building for now, because just read the webcomic. It's worth it. It's worth your time. Okay. So this is... Okay, I'm not entirely in love with this font for... and this presentation for the character creation. As you saw, I almost skipped right past it because I figured it was just another in-character thing like the actual play example. So, might want to change this. And yeah, it's a bit hard to read. So, start by deciding what your character concept is, pick a race, determine point budget. Okay, so that'll be the GM providing the point budget. Determine your stats, determine the skills, determine special abilities, and equipment. Oh, and this is... So we're still going through here. Okay, so Pixies-Fairies, weird default to 13, perhaps. Okay, so this is where we're really getting into the playtest stuff. 2 Qs... Assertion. Okay. So yeah, so you're immortal, at least as far as time is concerned. Have a default weird value of 13. Poor fit for PCs. Interesting. Hybrids. Half-dragons, etc. Weaker version of either of their parents. Poor pick. So, hang on, who's not a poor pick? Okay. So, racial templates. Generic enchanter. You have weird 16 to weird 0. So, okay, this is interesting because one factor with enchanters in the comic is that they're functionally invulnerable to mortal weapons. And that's even mentioned in the fluff, but here they've got the same, I think CN is Constitution, so they've got the same toughness as a completely generic person, which that doesn't seem to tally. You've got extra limbs, magic, no disadvantages, no advantages. Okay, points budget. Is there a default points budget? It's based on age. I'm not sure I like that. Because, again, if we remember, when you had your pixies, they're practically immortal. So I don't like that a 26-year-old is 25. It's 50% better than a 25-year-old. I feel like age could be a advantage or a disadvantage that you buy with your point budget rather than determining your point budget. That's one of those systems that kind of bugs me. Because, again, the strength of having a character generation system that's point-based is you have characters that aren't overpowering each other. Like, it allows you to balance the PCs against each other. Because you don't... The secret with balance is you do not need to balance the PCs against the world. You can make, as a GM, you can make the world tougher, you can make the world easier, you can balance the world in real time. Once people have started buying abilities, if they're not balanced against each other, that's what they're going to feel. So, if you want the game to be fun for everyone, you want all the PCs to feel like they can contribute. And just being flat worse than everyone else isn't fun for anyone. Okay. 80 years for generic... I do like that this mechanic means that an 80-year-old is able to kick way more ass than a 25-year-old. Okay. Dear. Yeah, it's even mentioned there. Yeah, I very much disagree with this design philosophy. I do not like characters being useless by virtue of their nature. It really doesn't... It might be fitting for the setting, but it doesn't result in a fun game. And how do I put this? If you limit choice... Like, the thing is, if you've got a dozen different types generic for an enchanter, and you just... Yeah, enchanters start with twice the points that generic people do, then you don't have a bunch of choices. You have one choice. And, you know, it's just an illusion of choice. And that's not a good design thing. You know, it's wasting page space. It's wasting everyone's time to even pretend that there's a choice, if there isn't really one. So, quirks, you're role-playing. A quirk is worth 2 points. Can get up to 8 quirks, 8 points in quirks, so 4 quirks. Disadvantages. Okay, so this is very GURPS. This, the disadvantages and quirks giving you points. How often? How nasty? So an everyday crippling quirk disadvantage, so like being blind, is only worth 10 points. Interesting. Well, I'll need to see how much a point is worth in order to really work out if that's well balanced. Okay. Arcane Clutch. So this is an example, is it? So now, as I understand, the magic casting system is going to be, you're aiming to be above 100, I think. So -8 sounds like a lot if we were on a D20 system, but it isn't really all that much. Crippling, I'm not really a fan of that. Making it GM Fiat when your stuff succeeds is really a bit of an iffy one. And not having some way to decide... I suppose that, you know, That's a pretty good set of descriptions for frequency, so... Is there any rule that a non-caster can't take arcane cluts? I suppose the GM would disallow that. Allergic. Okay. So that's SP damage, HP damage, serious nastiness. Okay. Allergy, homesick. So... So formatting wise, I kind of feel like game mechanics might need to be ahead of character generation, at least, you know, the basic description of what the attributes are, because I don't even know what SP are yet. So I don't know if that's a bad thing. I'm assuming it's stun points. Decrepit, hydrophiliac, needs to be wet or at least damp, so if you were making like a mermaid type character, this would be a must-have. Infamous. Jekyll and Hyde. Okay, so this is a split personality thing. Mental flaw. Okay. And compulsive liar, always fun. These, okay, pet peeve, these aren't in alphabetical order. Come on. Quentin, I know that you are better than that. This is what you do, you're an editor. These should be in alphabetical order. Okay. You're basically, people are racist against you, or you're a minority of some kind. Yeah, that's not bad. Physical flaws. Yep. No hands is always a bit of an inconvenience. Only... Okay. Rival. Always fun. Specialized diet. Tag along. Unlucky. Wanted. Okay, I think that this should definitely be up before races. This part. So we've got strength, dexterity, intelligence, willpower, insight, constitution, charisma, and weird. Okay. So, what have we... point cost is... Okay, so 10 points would get you an attribute plus 5 and a second attribute at plus 1. Interesting. So, and so what is the... I see why that is. That makes sense. Okay. I see. Your strength, your dexterity, your intelligence. I'm interested to see that there isn't a... does the other attributes use the same table for working out damage boosts relevant to their stuff? Okay, so weird is your defense stat against mundane stuff, apparently. Oh, it's just... Okay, so it's from all damage, not just mundane damage. Okay, so enchanters are tougher than regular people. So that's good. Is magics? Okay. That's just me thinking aloud. I'll look at that later. Movement is just standard walking speed. And again with the messages. I need to mute that. Okay. Yeah. Secondary stats are derived attributes. HP is equal to your constitution. Shock points, okay. Twice your constitution. Swimming, climbing, jumping. Okay, so... So my first thought here is that rather than having weird completely negate damage, it just converts it converts lethal damage to shock damage, and then shock damage it converts to non-damage. So that would be one idea to make it a bit less powerful. But who knows? So swimming, climbing, jumping, exotic modes of transportation. Okay. So skills. Let's. Okay, there's an A that you think. Alright, so we're not doing a skill list, we're doing characters define their own skills. Yeah, there's plenty of games that do that and do it well. So, and obviously you're rewarded by specializing, or, it's more expensive to get larger skills. It does seem, if just being universally good at everything is an option for 8 points, that does seem to be a better buy than 8 narrow skills. So, something to think about. Skill bonuses, skills and training, magical creatures and magical skills. Really, this should be non-magical creatures and magical skills, because the rules only affect mundane creatures, not the magical ones. So, yeah, if you want to play a mundane caster, you're going to be disadvantaged. Beyond starting with 0 in your casting stat. Using skills you don't have, so defaulting. Don't get any of the die roll bonuses that we're doing. Okay. So there's no default penalty, but you don't get a bonus from the skill, nor suitable tools, but you do. So it's a raw attribute check. Buying skills you can't use. Okay, so if you're playing a character that doesn't have wings, you can buy winged flight, which, I can see that being useful if if you get access to transmutation and can give yourself wings. You just don't default have them. Do you imagine every skill gen? Okay. Universal skills. Okay, so how does the universal skill combine with using skills you don't have? Because clearly you do have it. So 1 rank in universal means that you can use any suitable tools. I think that's a bit of a design flaw there. That's an exploit there. So analysis, perception and whatnot, athletics, getting around. Crafting is making stuff. Conflict skills. Okay. Combat stuff. Weapon skills. You can use skills to buy off penalties. Okay, so you're not buying like underwater combat or whatever. Are you buying underwater combat as a skill which then applies to all of your other skills, like buying off the penalty? Or are you specifically buying underwater combat swords or underwater combat whatever? Okay. Influence skills. Okay, this is going to be important. Skill, charm, persuade. Okay, how are they resisted? How do these interact with each other? If you have two people trying to convince each other on... Oh, it's going to be here, isn't it? Standards. Okay. Yeah, no, that's just a note that's on how to handle alien psychology. It's going to come up in this game, given we've got races that are very different from normal humans. Well, normal furs. So I don't think this system's been fleshed out enough yet, but that might just be me. Knowledge skills, pretty easy to work out. Language skills. Okay. So to speak it... Okay. Magical skills are just... Okay. And then professional skills. Special ability skills. Survival skills. Use stuff skills. Okay. And we do have a skill list. Okay, this is good. Need to see the magic system a bit, I think. This is definitely a formatting issue. So, pages 40 and 41 have a formatting issue. Okay, and I think that we're actually in a new section. No? Okay. So psionics is a thing. Interesting. So if psionics is a separate thing to magic, then it might... If you're a mundane, you're probably better off speccing into psionics than trying to be... mage. I'm reasonably confident that there shouldn't be this many weather reading skills on page 43, so that's another formatting issue. 44, 45. This is all blank space, presumably to set up. And then we have a repeat of the skills section at page 48. So page 48 through to 55 appears to be a repeat. Okay. And some more blank space. This is fine. It's pre-release alpha. I'm not expecting it to be set up properly yet. It's still in the concept stage. So magic, psychic powers, and everything else. Okay. So this is a magic based. This is a magic dependent setting. So obviously, magic has no intrinsic limits. Nothing can be done. Okay. Mechanically, so you've got a pool of D20s. Oh, I'm not liking this interaction with skills at all. Oh, this is gonna be messy. Okay. Okay, so you take the highest number out of your pool, or take the lowest, so it's like super advantage or super disadvantage from D&D. Pick the target number. Okay. So it's not just stacking dice on top of each other. That's not as bad as I was worried about, but it's very clear that your pool is going to be where you get your bonuses from. Because mathematically, the difference between 1d20 and 2d20 take the highest is about on par with a +5. Okay? There's diminishing returns, obviously. But it's about a +5 on average. And that's equivalent to 25 points, or the entire point budget of a 18 to 25 year old character in this. So yeah, this has potential to be I think the skills are likely to be more or less ignored, at least for low level stuff. Like, once you've got some spare points to throw around, yeah, level your skills, but upgrading your dice pool is definitely the thing. So, schools of magic. Okay, so each school has quirks. Only one school of magic at a time. Must follow a school of magic in order to work magic. Don't bother with schools of magic in the first place. They don't need it. Okay, interesting. Non-majors and schools of magic. Benefits of a school of magic. So it's very clear that you want quirks rather than buying up your skills if you're going with the school of magic. Get at least. Yeah, that's definitely a okay. Yeah, those bonuses are going to add up quick. Because now, you remember I just said that, adding second D8, D20 and taking the highest is equivalent to a +5. The thing to remember there is that there's a drop-off. The more dice you add, the lower return on investment you have. With quirks, you have a linear investment, which means that taking a bunch of quirks is going to be far, far better than having more dice. So I can already see this as completely blowing enchanters out of the water if you've got a school of magic. This is going to freaking annihilate enchanters. This needs rebalancing. End of story. Mad science. Okay. So, cybermancy, divination, necromancy, sonomancy, theurgy, wicca, witchcraft, the best type. Never laugh when you can okay, I mean, why the hell would you not take that? I mean, I cackle evilly even though I don't get a boost to my spellcasting. That you know of. Wizardry, just generally useful. Okay, interesting. So, just going to confirm that I know what this is, but... So, as I understand, it based on context, because it's not very well spelled out. Okay, so it's, dice pool adjustments. Plus 2 dice on whatever. Okay, so... Since enchanters are supposed to be the best at everything, I think enchanters are just going to get plus 3 to dice pools for everything. But as I said, that's not going to matter if you can get enough quirks behind you. Just having a bunch of quirks is going to frickin' break this game. So, psychic powers. Psychic characters have... So it's a 10-point investment to become psychic, which is way better for a mundane than trying to compete with enchanters as far as being magical are. Neg 20 dice rolls to use psychic powers intentionally. Interesting. Directly by the bodies. Okay. Plus 5 to a psychic roll for every... Okay. Yeah, that's not a bad balancing mechanic. It's just... You got your neg 20, but you can spend 4 SP to completely ignore that. It does mean that, just building a really tanky character is going to get you good psychic powers effectively. Mentalist powers, so affect the mind and or soul, so mind control, mind reading, etc. Information is a bit harder, so this is just knowing stuff. Okay, manipulation, so telekinesis. Okay. Interesting. Some psychic power. Yeah, I think that because of all the penalties you're taking to try and be a mage in if you're not a magical creature, you're definitely going to want to just lean into being psychic if you want to be a special mundane. Yep, you've got some circumstance modifiers. Yep, sounds good. Ooh, physical transformations. Yeah, this is This is good stuff. Sensory link. Ooh, nice. Telepathy, easy. Transmutation. Okay, really hard to do. I foresee it potentially being broken. Oh yeah, I reshuffle that into subcritical uranium. Or I reshuffle that into antimatter. So yeah, it's a good thing that's got such a huge penalty to it. Because that could be nasty. Yeah, so Arcane Affinity is 3 points. Okay, and that gets you good at one specific spell. This is basically a signature spell for +4 on it. That's pretty good for 3 points. Ambidextrous, very useful, pretty cheap. Amphibious, immune to being drowned is always nice. Armored Skin. Okay, 2 times N points subtracts N off all physical damage done to you. Okay. So, I can see that's interesting. Big Lung increases your ability to hold your breath. 1 point is pretty reasonable for that. Generating light. I don't think that it's worth 2 points. Now, the reason for that is this is the mundane world. Everyone has a cell phone which can, be used as a flashlight. Flashlights themselves, not uncommon. Light is not a valuable ability in a modern setting. So I'd say 1 point it. The ability to change colour. Ooh, that's very nice. 3 points for +5 to stealth rolls when you're naked. Contacts. Okay. This is something that mundanes would be well advised to spec out. Determinator. You can spend N of your remaining. Okay. So basically, if you're reduced to negative hit points, you can just keep on going at the cost of your what was it, stun points, I think it was? I can't remember. Shock points, that's the one. Duplication. Self-duplicating abilities. Always fun. Extra limbs. Yep. Healing. You have lay on hands ability. How many pits worth of damage you can heal around? Okay, so interesting. Okay, I can already see a broken combo here. Effortless healing for a single superficial. That's going to cost you 2 points. Unlimited out of combat healing. Okay. Not harmed by a certain kind of hazard. Pay 16 for all 4. Okay. innate weaponry, spiky bits. Can't really compare this until I see a normal weapon table. But, okay. So yeah, you're building your own special attack. Interesting. And here are some examples. Iron Will. Okay. So +5 for 3 points. Pretty good value. Leech. Okay. So this is another Healy thing. It's doesn't have quite the potential for out of combat abuse that regular healing does. It the ability to leech SP is a good one for out of combat though, because healing doesn't do that. So you just take prisoners and then leech their SP after the fight's over. Light Sleeper. Okay, Lucky. Bonus die rolls. Setting in yet. Okay. Going from freakishly small or freakishly tall. I see. Interesting. Meat Shield. More HP, more SP. Psychic gets you access to psychic powers. Re-embodied. 64 points, you can just resurrect people. Best left to NPCs. I would suggest that this should just be flat out left as a spell rather than being an ability you can buy. Regen. You see, let's look at this game balance. Automatically heal 1 hit point per day for 4 points, or effortless healing for 2 points. For just the difference in healing rate is astronomical, and regeneration isn't looking good out of that. This is really... I think that this was made at an earlier point where we don't have... This was clearly not balanced with the more recent stuff. Or the more recent stuff wasn't balanced. Or this was more recent and the older stuff wasn't balanced with this. But this is terrible. This is an absolutely terrible ability as far as when compared to healing. Resistance, just resisting stuff. Scentless, very useful if you're being tracked by something. Special movement, burrow, climb or fly. Jumping, Lightfoot, Pulse Jet, Sprinter, special sensors. Okay. Spinnerets. Yeah, you got web shooting abilities. You're Spider-Man. Dun, 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 dun. Tireless. Avoid exhaustion. Waxmaker. Okay. Equipment. Value. How much cash people have. Okay. Wearables. Junk. So these are your equipment slots basically. So, and then you've got your tools, vehicles, armor, and weapons. Longsword does 46 damage. Okay. I feel like rifles are more dangerous than longswords. And shotguns should do more damage than rifles. I'm not seeing any special rules here. Yeah, ranged equipment is very heavily nerfed here. Interesting. Yeah, so yeah, longswords are either really overpowered or everything else is underpowered, basically. Guns are largely absent. Yeah, so that's an intentional design choice. Yeah, and then just make them worse. Okay. Yeah, so this is definitely designed to steer players away from guns. I'm not sure I agree that that's the best way to go about this, but I'll just play a character with a longsword. Got you covered. Okay, player versus the universe. Normal die roll. 1d20 plus your thing. Okay, we have margin of success, which is nice. Slight formatting issue there. Okay. Also, the other thing to remember with your melee weapons is they're getting your strength bonus damage, guns are not. So yeah, this is a system that heavily discourages ranged attacks. PC versus PC. Relevant die roll modifiers. Okay, so you're adding your whole stat. Interesting. Yeah, you can add less than your bonuses. Take extra time for +5 for every doubling. You can rush it to halve a task. Okay. That's good. That's a very good setup. Appropriate tools can be inappropriate tools, no tools, contributory skills. So if you've got skills that help with other skills, you can add half of that value to your check. Simultaneous. Okay. Advancement. XP rewarded. Okay, so XP is just more progression points directly. That's a good system. Free action down. This is all pretty standard stuff, tried and true. Okay. Your AC is your dex, so useful. Faint. Both rates target number for this roll. dodge, evade, yeah, and all-out evade. It's plus 20 to defense. Okay. Block. Parry is deflecting. Grabs, trips, disarms, throws. Magicking. Okay. Death and res on magic. Okay. So, perform a magical feat. You roll your pool of d20s and use the number on one of the dice. Your choice. It's always going to be the largest one unless you're trying to fail. The sum is 0. Roll a pool of 1 dice. If you've got a... Okay. Yep. Really simple there. If you've got a positive pool, you're rolling and taking the highest. Negative pool, you're taking the lowest. Target number. Make magic roll. Roll the dice pool and add your weird. Sure, it's at least equal to the target number. You've succeeded. Yep. Screwing up can result in big explodey stuff. Magic skill, it's positive, or can be a positive. Some characters just naturally klutzy with magic. Some magic feats are more time consuming. Okay. So, magic versus mundane. Free action, instant, number of targets 1, range self, no noticeable area effect, 1 point in something. Okay. If you want to cast a spell with purpose X, which has different characteristics than the default, target number will be affected. Each tier put down. Single tier shift makes the spell more effective. So, right. So, communication can create damage. So, break fireball. Casting time. Okay, so making it less effective would be increasing the casting time. I see. I see how this works. Cast A, targets A, range D, unit B. That's a pretty lame spell, to be honest. I'd rather use my sword. Heal. Cast. MR. Okay. I think that this is going to require a deeper dive than this initial look at, but it's pretty basic. It's a pretty good freeform system. Just needs some tweaking. Okay. Incantations. Okay. Gestures. Physical ingredients. Again, I'm really not seeing... I'm seeing enchanters being at a bit of a disadvantage with this system, interestingly. Right. And you can obviously burn yourself out to boost your spell casting. Which... Okay. Yeah, you just want to burn SP for this whenever you can. Scalable, flexible, skills, combat. Okay. And I think we're going to end it without going into the optional rules. So there is the basics. It's still a bit rough. There's some formatting errors, but the core of a good system is definitely here. The creator knows what he wants to do, and yeah, I think that this is going to... I think this has a lot of potential, but it needs some refining. In any case, everyone have fun, and I'll see you guys next time.